let's go into Dazed and Confused.
You did talk about, we talked about Crumb, right? Yeah.
Crumb, we did, yeah. So Dazed and Confused, and hold on a second here. I'm the prop master today, so.
That's the album, right?
Sweet Emotion.
Sweet Emotion.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was Rocks or Toys in the Attic, but
No,
it's actually Toys in the Attic. So Toys in the Attic.
Yeah, I think I wonder if I have that. If I ever bought that on.
It's a good record. It actually is a very. I mean, I like both of those albums, and I probably like Toys in the Attic a little better, actually. So.
Well, Sweet Emotion and Toys in the Attic, both are great songs. I actually did, believe it or not, the first time I heard Toys in the Attic was REM's cover, I think.
Really, eh?
What a terrible way to hear a great Aerosmith song.
Wow.
Just the idea of I mean, I love REM, but just they don't seem like the band that.
Yeah, I know that can pull it off.
Aerosmith.
Yeah.
So Dazed and Confused is a good one to follow. Clueless only because I remember my reaction. I wrote about it. I reviewed it. I wrote a comment in Radio On, and I complained. I nitpicked about this, that, whatever, just because it wasn't exactly what I went through in high school. I mean, the first thing that jumped out at me, would seem really strange, was the idea that they would have the grade 12 students, having all this interaction with the incoming grade 9 students, even if it was some ritual thing. That never went on at my high school. They were, the grade 9s and the grade 12s were just universes apart, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. So that threw me. And then, I wanted it to be the greatest soundtrack ever, and it was good and certainly had its moments, but I mean, the soundtrack wasn't as good as The Virgin Suicides for a 70s film. It had some definite junk that was just bad. It sort of works in the film anyway. I mean, Foghat's Slow Ride became just a running joke after Seinfeld, and he kind of used it earnestly. Anyway, I've come to really like the film a lot. I would put Boyhood ahead of it. I would put talk about Richard Linklater later now. I would put Boyhood and School of Rock ahead of it. Right. But I think it's definitely the third great film he's made. I'm not big on the two, Sunrise and Sunset and whatever they're called films. So, it took me a few times. I just sort of had to go to it and not worry that, he wasn't making my life story, apparently.
And how is Sweet Emotion used again in it?
Sweet Emotion is the opening scene. It's the flip of Clueless. Instead of the end, it's the opening scene, where it's just kind of and it's great because slow motion, Sweet Emotion is the perfect song. You hear the beginning of the song with just that kind of, it's like muffled instruments. The song hasn't started, how sweet.
Yeah, it's got that muffled bass.
And it's got a weird beginning. It's got a weird beginning, and that he plays that over. You always get produced by production credits, and he cuts to the first shot when the song actually starts.
Wow, I sort of remember that now that you're mentioning it. Yeah,
and it's a slow motion in the parking lot, which is just perfect. And I don't know if in one of the versions I've sent you, I go back and I quoted Chuck, because in one of it would be, I don't know which book, but whatever book came out before Dazed and Confused came out, I guess the one that was supposed to be the Def Leppard book. And that's how Dazed and Confused starts. A bunch of kids smoking dope to Sweet Emotion in a high school parking lot.
That's funny because Chuck, you just never know, right? Like if Richard Linklater read that or something, and I mean, in that case, Chuck and Aerosmith would have 2 wins in his column because of the Run DMC connection too. You remember that one, right? The Run DMC.
I thought when I went back to check the Dazed and Confused premonition or whatever, I thought it might have been the same piece, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
The Dazed and Confused piece comes after the should do Walk This Way. So that to me was the best use of music in Dazed and Confused. But then he goes on, he uses other things really well. He uses Rock and Roll All Night well. He uses, I think
still there, Phil? I think I've lost you. I've got a freeze frame.
It's my head. Okay, that's better.
Okay, now I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday's Gone, right, by Leonard Skinner?
Yep.
So he uses that really well. And there's probably, even though I can't think of them right now, probably 3 or 4 other songs. He uses Bob Dylan's Hurricane, which to me doesn't fit at all. I don't know why he used
Yeah, I
that.
remember that actually. It is kind of weird.
It's when they go to this, it's kind of pool hall emporium, and it's playing, for realism, it works. It's playing off the jukebox, and yeah, sure, that would have been playing off the jukebox, but I just don't like that song at all.
Yeah. Was it one of your original sort of complaints about the movie that you felt that kids that age would not just be hearing music, but they'd be talking about it and talking about bands and stuff like that, whereas you don't really get so much of that in the movie in terms
Could well have been, and I think I was partly wrong on that, because it is the music, they do go beyond just listening to it a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, they make up that they make up the Kiss paper mache thing that's in the back of one of the pickup trucks. Right. And I think they reflect on it a little bit here and there. Yeah. And maybe that was just my friends and your friends. I don't know. Maybe the vast majority of the kids I went to high school with never thought about the music they listened to.
Well, and
part of their life.
Well, and the other practical thing might be just that it takes up dialogue time in a movie too, right? And yeah. I mean, Quentin Tarantino maybe popularized doing that sort of thing, and this is before that, right? Or is it? Yeah. Or no, it's actually not before Reservoir Dogs, is it? Reservoir Dogs is like 91 or 92, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Wednesdays.
So anyway, that's an irrelevant point, but it doesn't mean they would do it all the time, right? So it didn't have it in, but I do remember you saying something to that effect.
I probably did. That's the kind of thing I'd say. And I think I was, at least half or more wrong about that. Because, I mean, look, we went on to write about music. I mean, most kids go on to write about music. It's just there,
Yeah. I mean, there were definitely factions and, there were groups in high school, my high school. Like there was definitely the metal kids versus the punk kids, and you would actually get in sort of arguments about it and stuff. But yeah, it's not happening and there wasn't the time. So
right, and that's one thing that wasn't in Dazed and Confused. There was no musical factions. It was still about the cliques and whatever, and yet the cliques really kind of overlapped because you've got the 3 quote unquote geeky teenagers who are on very good terms with the guy who's the quarterback of the football team.
Right.
Do you
know what year? Is it supposed to be set in a very specific year?
Yes. I think it even, it's the bicentennial year. Because the last thing, on the last day of school, they're, and she's meant to be a caricature, their leftover hippie-ish history teacher tells them, he says, don't forget when you're out celebrating the bicentennial, and she makes some reference to the natives who died.
Right.
You're celebrating the exploitation, etc. And they just storm out of class, and that's when School's Out plays, which is easy to make work, and he makes it work. It's great. It's set in 76, May or June of 76.